Yo, what's up? I just finished the Malcolm X autobiography, and I gotta say, like, it's I mean, it's a. I love the book. I think it's a lot of things that that really stuck out to me. Being that I watched the movie. I watched the movie when I was younger a few times, and this was honestly my first time reading the book. And I would say for anybody out there that was like me, read that book. And anybody that's doing that, or anybody that's interested in like just watching the movie, um, just read the book. It's way more informational, way more detailed. Um, I think you really get an understanding of who Malcolm X was, Malcolm Little, uh, Malik Shabazz. Like you get all like three different versions of who Malcolm was throughout this book, and it's transformative, and I think it's inspirational, and I kind of see like by reading this book, I could tell why Malcolm X is so like popular but infamous at the same time. Infamous in a way like from like, you know what I'm saying, like white America, um and like the nationalists and all that. I could kind of see that, like why he hated, or not really. I wouldn't always say just hate it, but they try not to talk about him. Like when you look through history, you always got to dig a little bit deeper to kind of figure out what was going on at the time. And it's only some people that people like to prop up, and then there's people who they try to like not talk about because um, it just make it easier for us to forget them. And I think in our neighborhoods, though, in the black and brown neighborhoods, I could see why he was so popular. Um, like, you know, his story is so relatable when you think about it. Just being that he was a person that came from like a really dark place, and then ended up like pretty much just changing his life, and ended up doing so much good before he got out of here. Even though he still was a pretty young person, uh, honestly, like he really was just getting started with his family and stuff like that. And you could kind of tell like the next frontier of what Malcolm would have became would have been even greater than what he already was. Um, and I wrote down. I got some notes right here, so it's kind of funny. Like I put on like some anime type shit. Malcolm X story would be like the hero journey, the hero story. Um, you know, you would start off like, you know, Malcolm X is the Monkey King. Malcolm X is like yo Goku. He like yo Naruto. You start in these dark places, and then you end up, you know, triumphing all that negativity and becoming like a positive um, a positive person. And you know, some people may not see it that way, but if you read that book, you would see like, nah, he really was a once in a lifetime type of dude. And that's why he just like so popular. Things we could learn from Malcolm. Redemption is possible. So no matter how bad um, or just like how dark your past is, you can always change, turn your back away from whatever it is, and still become a better person. And it all depends on what you want to do. You got to be able to um, realize the error in your ways and be able to change that. But it all starts with realizing it. Knowledge is power. I think like Malcolm was always like knowledgeable, but he may have started off getting his knowledge in the wrong ways, in the wrong areas, right? Um, Being that he was from Michigan, he moved around from like Boston, in New York, kind of like back and forth through all three of those areas, and you could really see that him coming from these three areas at the time, he just gathered up a whole bunch of game, and it wasn't always used in the most positive ways, but sometimes you got to get stuff in negative ways. Also, don't idolize nobody. I think that was probably one of the biggest downfalls of Malcolm, being he was like so smart, so strong. He at one point in the book, he's saying like he would kill himself for Elijah Muhammad, and it's just that cult mentality, like, and I don't want to attack nobody religion, but it's so many people that we know that are like strong individuals that yes, they religious, but they may even be like cult like it's okay to be religious and believe in God, but it is a thing where you get so lost in this thing to where like you willing to die behind another human being. Like he literally said, like Elijah Muhammad, like if somebody was trying to attack him, he would give up his life for him. It was a bunch of times where he basically was like he would sacrifice himself to make sure Elijah Muhammad was okay. He really believed that Elijah Muhammad was like God's right hand, and he treated him like it. So, it's okay to get information from people and really like revere people, but don't idolize them, because 9 times out of 10 they gonna let you down. And the movie kind of shows, I think it did a good representation of how Malcolm X felt, figuring out that Elijah Muhammad wasn't who he thought he was, and he went through stages of grief. He got into it with his wife, he got into it with himself, like he was questioning God, like it was a lot that went into it, and so yeah, like I just think like that's an important fact. Like don't idolize nobody, and being that this is a strong man, like this is one of the people that I really like, what I'm saying, when I really have a lot of love, respect for Malcolm X, and to just see him go through that was just, it was a lot. I feel like the movie low-key undersold the book, and it's missing a lot of key pieces. Like one thing that I feel like they didn't really do really well was Malcolm always had pro-blackness in his blood, in his DNA. His dad was what you consider like a Marcus Garveyite. He was a person who was already preaching pro-blackness, so it was something that um, Malcolm was raised off of. It wasn't something that he got into jail and this guy from the nation got him into that. Like, nah, he already was raised on it, and his dad paid that price. He was a preacher who went to different cities and preached basically like Marcus Garvey gospel of basically going back to Africa, building a community, and kind of like standing on their own. And a lot of the people in Michigan where they lived at didn't like him for it. And so that's another piece that I feel like the movie misses out on, maybe because of timing. And I believe like the Malcolm X movie is already hella long. I haven't seen it in a minute, so I gotta rewatch it. But it kind of makes sense why it wasn't there. But I think that was an important piece that could have been there just to give us a little more understanding of him. And oh yeah, no, his family is what brought him to the Nation of Islam. When he was in jail, like the homie put him on like tightening up his English and stuff like that. But his family is what brought him to the Nation, and he was kind of embarrassed that he couldn't write his family letters how he wanted to. And then he really got embarrassed when Elijah Muhammad, when he started to write Elijah Muhammad through his brother. So his brother was already connected with Elijah Muhammad. His sister, I think her name was Ellie, she was already connected. And so he wanted to write Elijah Muhammad, but he felt like his stuff just wasn't tight enough, so he started reading more books. So that was what got him to the Nation, not a person in jail. And excuse me, he was way more gangster in the he was way more gangster. I feel like the movie showed some things, like they showed him getting into it with Archie and having his dealings in the streets, but they didn't really get into his streetness. I think they kind of like portrayed him more as like a pimp hustler type person. But nah, Malcolm was out there. Like, it was one scene where he had the gun to his head and stuff like that, but nah, Malcolm was out there wilding. Like, it was a part in the book where he was buying a machine gun off of somebody, right? And then he was like, I guess the person didn't have the clip and the gun together. And so he let Malcolm see the gun, and then he was like, how do I know the gun worked? Bruh put the clip inside the gun. Malcolm took the gun and pins it onto the dude and like basically threatened to kill him right in the bathroom. Like, this is the type of stuff Malcolm was doing. Like, he was really like on some crazy shit. So like that could just tell you, like, man, Malcolm was out there going crazy. Another thing that they don't tell us is Malcolm developed a lot for the Nation that they use today, like the newspaper. He was like a big hand in developing those early newspaper articles and stuff like that, and also the work that he did with the mosque. he started like a lot of chapters, like a lot of the people he recruited went on to lead a lot of different chapters throughout the Nation of Islam. So he was like a backbone pillar to the nation he before he died. Elijah Muhammad himself said that Malcolm was one of his most loyal soldiers. And through the book, you could kind of tell that Malcolm was literally ready to die for Elijah Muhammad. I said that before, but I gotta say it again because, you know, being how strong he was, he really was selfless, and you know, to a fault. Like, it was to a point, like he turning his back on his wife for Elijah Muhammad, for the Nation of Islam. Malcolm was a full-blown Pan-Africanist. So once he got away from the Nation of Islam, and he was able to just go to Mecca and start to become a different type of Muslim. I think it's like Sunni Muslim. I might be saying that wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he wanted black folk to start to trade with other African countries. And I mean, this is something that I feel like we should be doing already, but for some reason it just haven't happened. I know it's a lot of people who feel like we shouldn't be working with Africans, but you're dead wrong. Like, you're just wrong. We definitely need to create some type of relationship with the Africans and start working with them on not just like, you know, not just smiling in their face, going over there to kick it with them. No, we need to be trading with them and helping each other economy. Another thing he did, he basically exposed a lot of the people who was in Africa at that time, smiling in the Africans' faces, and he told them basically straight up, like, these people, they only treat y'all a certain way because of the resources. And he even said, like, back home they treating us like this. And so he was already trying to like get them to understand that a lot of the white people that's there trying to quote unquote trade with the Africans were just only there for the resources. But obviously, knowing history, a lot of those countries ain't really realized that until now. A lot of those countries ain't realized it until now. And then he wanted black people to know, the black diaspora to know, that our issues are international and not national. It's not just black people got it bad in America. If you look at all the black countries around the globe, literally either colonialism is on their ass or they are impoverished. And a lot of it is because it's by design. Like, you know, these Europeans, they got power to where, like, if you're not doing what they want you to do, they could just take certain resources out your hand and give them to another country, or they could just not trade with you, or they could attack your government and do a coup d'état, or put a proxy government in position to do what they want them to do. And it's crazy because a lot of people that's not of our skin, they believe that black countries just can't get it together. But the whole time is, you know, that's by design. It's not because they're bad, they're like they just can't get right. That's not true. It's more because of the landscape of the world that we live in right now. I would blame capitalism because our country specifically our country, we take we take so much from other countries. And honestly, any other country that's aligned with us, a lot of these other European countries, they don't have resources of their own. They have to go to other places and take their resources from the places, and they leave these places with nothing. Um, you got a bunch of examples. Jamaica is ran by Britain. But when you go off of the Jamaican resorts, it's almost like Jamaica ain't got shit. When they biggest thing is tourism and the beaches, and they can't even make money off of it because Britain want the money for it. They taking all the money for it. Burkina Faso, they just now taking power back over. They had to do a whole coup d'etat. They had to take people out of place to take over their gold mines and take over their resources. They still building, so I don't want to say it's perfect, but this is the type of stuff that a lot of black people have to do to get freedom. Another place, Haiti. Haiti is still paying for being the first black independent country. And once they got independent, the French told everybody, like, don't trade with Haiti. And they also made Haitians pay reparations to France because they got freedom. Like, it just a lot of backwards stuff that a lot of darker skinned people, black people, African diaspora people have to do. They gotta pay for these things, and they still paying. So that was just 3 examples, but there's way more examples out there if you pay attention. At the end of the book, Malcolm pretty much predicted his fate. He said he would be dead before he said he was going to be dead before the book came out, and that was the truth. He also said that he wouldn't be put in the most positive light, and that's pretty much the truth. Like, it's people who look at Malcolm as just like a race baiting black guy, when the whole time he wasn't. Like, and I think he still get penalized for it because on one end we lift up MLK, but on the other end we don't lift up Malcolm. When I think, like, Malcolm, I ain't gonna say he was more thorough, but he definitely was just like a little more radical, and so they don't want people like Malcolm to actually get his just due. But luckily we got this book to kind of understand where he was coming from. Alright, so I got a theory on why Malcolm died and how it happened. So for a long time people were saying that the Nation of Islam had something to do with it, and I don't know if they did or not. I mean, it looks as if the nation was, but I also believe that the government basically set it up for it to be that way. Like, I believe that when they went through COINTELPRO, they seen it was nothing they could really pin on Malcolm. So instead of, like, doing him in like a blackmail honeypot type of way, what they did was, being that New York is, he was stationed in New York, y'all. So by the way, if you ain't know that, he was in New York. New York is one of the capitals for propaganda and news, right? So I believe they used the news to put out unfavorable narratives about him, and these narratives made it seem like Malcolm wanted to take over the Nation of Islam from Elijah Muhammad. And if y'all know about Elijah Muhammad, you know at the time they thought he was like God's like right hand man. They thought God, he was basically almost like God in the flesh. Like, so, you know, they made it seem like Malcolm wanted his spot, or like he wanted to lead, or like he wanted to break off and become this different entity. Whole time Malcolm was literally saying in the book, like, I would put my life on the line for Elijah Muhammad. And so those things could have caused the nation to react the way they did to get him out of there. That's just one way to look at it. But I definitely think that they used the news, the media, to kind of like get him separated from the nation, because they didn't want to, you know, believe it or not, the nation, they had it like that. Like, you don't want to, I would say the nation was a really powerful entity back then. They still powerful now. Like, they still got some stuff going. But back then, like, if they would have started to like pull out full-blown assaults on them, it would have been all bad. Like, I think it would have made more people more radical. So they had to basically get rid of Malcolm on some like internal type stuff, and that's pretty much what they did by running unfavorable quotes of his and making it seem like he was looking for a leadership role, when the whole time he will always bring it back to Elijah Muhammad. So yeah, like they were misquoting him. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got on Malcolm as far as like the autobiography. There's still other stuff that I want to talk about, and you know, maybe I might have to do a separate video for it, but for the most part, it's called Don't Shoot the Messenger. And I did this because I feel that a lot of the times we look for messages from certain types of people, and you know, the message don't always come from the people that we expect from. Like, for instance, I'm not talking about like for black people. I'm not saying like things that Charlie Kirk is saying is valid or anything like that. But I'm talking about more like a Charleston White, for instance. I don't rock with everything Charleston White say, but he do say some good things, and I think that him being a person who will dissect what the diaspora has gone through, him putting in that time in his community, it gives him, he has the right to sit there and ridicule the black community. But another thing that Charleston White do that a lot of conservatives don't do, he also talks about how white people had a hand in that. See, that's one thing that a lot of conservatives, they don't do. They like to, especially like, you know, a lot of these white conservatives, they like to talk about black and brown communities, but they never talk about how the black and brown communities got to this situation. So at that point, it becomes propaganda, and they not doing it with care. If a person want to talk about the black and brown community, you have to talk about the government involvement and why these things are like that. And so if you don't do that, it's like, shut the fuck up. But like a person like Charleston, like I gotta go back to him. he is like, the way he say things is crazy. But when you hear him and you just hear him out, some of the stuff he's saying is absolutely correct. Who's another person that's like that? I think like who else? Who else? Nah, because Charleston is literally like the best example, because he's more of a extreme on these things. I think like even Elijah Muhammad, some of the things he was talking about, he was actually on point with him. It's just like, his history with, with the younger women and the girls, it kind of just like muddy up his message. But I think we have to get to this point to where we could take the message but not, eat the bones. So we have to be able to decipher some of this stuff and leave some of the other stuff there. Because honestly, like, if we being real, the Nation of Islam, he left a nice system for them to kind of run themselves in. And honestly, some of my favorite like content creators are actually Nation of Islam Muslims, and I'm not Muslim at all. I'm not even considering myself a Muslim. But you got Nuri Muhammad, you got Rizza Islam, you got 19 Keys. All three of them are very solid people as far as like their messages and how they carry themselves. Like it's damn near like, I would say the Nation of Islam is probably one of the better machines that we have in our black community. But since there's a lot of like anti-intellectualism, a lot of people like to shun it because they believe that the black man is God, which, if you understand what they saying, you would get it. But a lot of people don't understand what they saying. But that's, I'm not breaking down what they believe and all that. But if you're gonna believe in anybody, why not believe in yourself? Pretty much simple. And then you got people like Dr. Umar. Like, I feel like he's another person where it's like, don't shoot the messenger. A lot of people clown Dr. Umar for that school, but here's the thing: maybe he didn't crunch them numbers correctly and didn't realize how much money he would have needed. He thought he could probably get a certain amount, but when you basically have people clowning you the whole time, it makes it that much harder to raise up the money. And people are on his back about not having the money. And it's like, bruh, Dr. Umar not LeBron James. Dr. Umar is not a celebrity to where his money is like that much more available. He's not a Kanye West. He's not a Jay-Z. Like, he don't have these people money. And so, like, we sit there and clown him. But whole time, a lot of his messaging is on point. Now, if you want to say it may be too pro-black, that's on you. But as a black person in 2026, 2025, you should already have some pro-blackness in you. If not, your people probably raising you wrong. And are we supposed to be a monolith as black people? No. But it's like, nigga, know what you're going up against. Like, people, just because we're, in the coastal areas especially, just because we not getting lynched by white people and water hoses getting set on us, don't mean that the system is not racist, and we're not still being attacked in many different ways. Like, for one, I brought up environmental racism. You got people who had these factories back in the day, and they just closed them down, but they still, radiating whole neighborhoods, destroying whole neighborhoods, giving everybody cancer, but nobody talks about this shit. Or you got, what else you got? You got that going on. You got, if your name is too black on Indeed, you gotta fill out 1,000 fucking job applications before somebody want to hire you. What else you got? It's so much stuff. You got because of the DEI shit, you got a bunch of qualified black women who went to college to get degrees and shit like that. 100,000 something black women just got fired because of the DEI shit. They want to take critical race theory out of the schools when we obviously have a race problem in this country. It's just so much. Like, this is just stuff that I'm coming off top of. I'm not even on my notes no more. This is just stuff off of the dome. Now, I hate when people say, like, stop complaining. You shouldn't be complaining. You should be happy with what you got. And it's like, yes, I work for everything I have, but isn't that how diplomacy works? You complain to hope to campaign to get that campaign into legislation. This is literally how our democracy works. You complain, which, what I'm saying, could start up some brainstorming to get ideas out. So I don't want to hear that bullshit. Just because, people in third world countries, they don't have the space to complain, don't mean that we should just be okay with what we get. No, fuck that. Like, they're not in America. I'm in America. This is our law. These are our rights to be able to discuss these things. And honestly, if we didn't do these things, how would we have civil rights in the first place if we just, we got our trades and was just fucking happy with what we had? Like, y'all be sounding like white people, bruh. And it'd be a lot of black people saying this. And, it's some people who I've had this conversation with. And, it's not just one person, so don't feel attacked. But y'all sound like white people when y'all say these type of things. And yes, like, I get it. Other countries have it bad. They may even have it worse in certain contexts. But let's not act like we're not in America in one of the most like we're getting attacked mentally at no other, like, at the highest rate out of any other people out of the world. So this is why I go back to saying, like, psychological warfare. Like, a lot of people can't see these things, so they feel like they're not happening, but don't mean that these things are happening. They're just a lot subtle now. Your algorithm is shaping the way you think. It's making you think that nothing is going on. Whole time, you got these billionaires creating whole kingdoms right on top of your head, and you don't even know it. Pretty much making it to where, not just the black people are out, but anybody who don't have a certain amount of money is shit out of luck. Even people who got millions of dollars will come to realize that, oh shit, I'm even shit out of luck. because the system that we're putting into place next is going to make it harder for everybody. Now, that also goes back into the thing that I was talking about, where it's like classism is the biggest problem that we have, but racism is still here. But yeah, that's something to look out for. I don't want to get too off topic, but that's pretty much my breakdown for the Malcolm X autobiography. And I think this book, I think I should have read this when I was a lot younger. Now I do think it's stuff that I got now that I probably wouldn't have got back then. But yeah, if you got kids and they're of this skin tone, darker or darker, definitely get them this book. I think everybody should read this book, but it's probably not gonna happen like that. But read the book and get an understanding of who Malcolm X was and how he led his life, because that man was one of the best of us. But he struggled to get there. It wasn't something that he did overnight. So it kind of just shows you that you can be quote unquote a bad person and turn it around. Did y'all know that they was calling him Satan once upon a time? Like, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. His story is amazing. So yeah, get you one of those books and start reading. But yeah, man, peace out.